Some more.
Well, I looked.
You okay? Thank you. Try to forget the side of the commodity. I think we would probably still want to try to go to a place to sleep because they're next door. They didn't get in. Can't have to. Can you play on that?
He said he couldn't find anything missing. Somebody in there or something.
After I was thinking maybe there's a place to sleep.
Well, who knows? They've been breaking them all over. They broke into the USDA over where Joe NRCS is. They have hydroponics. They broke into that, and all they have in there is seed and some chemical. Completely destroyed it. Completely destroyed it. Trashed the lot, busted up probably about $5,000 worth of seed, close to probably about $5 again in spraying chemical. Just completely trashed. But old books, old NRCS books, they tried lighting those on fire. Just destruction.
Okay, Bill, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
You ready on TV there?
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 1st, 9 a.m. We will call the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting to order at this time. Commissioner Haas, would you please lead us in an invocation?
Yes, sir. Dear Lord, we pray for all those that are needing hope, strength, and encouragement. Please minister to them now. We pray that you would work in their hearts, dry their tears, take away their fears, be their healer, comforter, and provider. You know who is struggling. You know each one by name. Please have compassion and mercy, and may they feel your presence like never before. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Commissioner Lopez, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Hess. Here. Commissioner Luis Lopez.
I'm here. Do you have any changes to the agenda, Mr. Rocco?
No changes to the agenda, Commissioner.
Thank you. Entertain a motion, please.
Move for approval of the agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes. Item 2A, regular meeting minutes, December 21st, 2021. We had an opportunity to review minutes. If there are any concerns or questions or changes, if not, entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 21st, 2021.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes, item B, regular meeting minutes, January 4th, 2022. We have any questions or concerns? If not, entertain a motion, please.
Move for approval of the regular meeting minutes of January 4th, 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes. Reading of correspondence, Commissioner Committee reports. We've been busy. Commissioner Lopez, you'd like to go first today.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a brief report. A lot of meetings going on, but one of the most important over the last couple of weeks, we were at the CCI headquarters in Denver going over some of the legislative bills that are going to be introduced and could be enacted in county. So we went over. We have 9 steering committees, and every steering committee from agriculture to public safety to DHS had basically a bulk of bills, averaging about 7 to 10 bills per committee. And so we went through all of those. We had Thursday and Friday, and it was incredibly just a fast going, a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue. We had a huge attendance. We had a hybrid meeting, as well as we had the CCI conference room was quite full, as well as the online was pretty well attended. So one of the first meetings that we have had face-to-face from the beginning of the pandemic, and it went really well. A lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue on that as well. And by the way, we have a link on the San Animas County website to all the legislation that is being introduced for all counties on our website. Go in there and you'll see exactly what is priority and what are some of the bills that we're going to be looking at fairly closely. So one of the things for Colorado County commissioners, we come together and we give a recommendation. Do we support that? Do we oppose that? Do we amend it or simply monitor it? And so at the end of the discussion, we decide exactly what position Colorado County is going to take, and then we go to a formal vote. And the formal vote is what is going to be recorded, and that's how that bill and our proposed legislation is going to be monitored. And one of the good clarifications and discussions that came last week, there was a discussion of opposing the bill. He felt that if we oppose it, that we are not going to be any more interested in being at the table and debating that bill. So we went through the debate. The clarification was that indeed we can oppose legislation because it's not going to be good for our county. So we went through the process and we opposed quite a few recommendations because they're not good for Colorado, they're not good for counties. And two things that we're really looking and being very vigilant about is unfunded mandates. Right now, the unfunded mandates for counties are so extremely expensive. The legislature signs a bill, and the counties have to go out and implement with no additional dollars coming from the state or anyone else. So anytime we see an unfunded mandate, we talk about it. The beautiful thing about the CCI is that we have our legislative CCI team working directly with the sponsors of the bill, and that information is passed back and forth to us. So we know what position is going to be going on that particular bill. And then, of course, we also hear this bill will pass no matter what. And so we have to monitor whether we like it or not, because the votes insist to go through that process. So it was a very, very good discussion, very lengthy, very passionate. And then, of course, on the 9 steering committees that we have, we elect a chair and a vice chair. And I'm really honored to say that Commissioner Tony has served year 1, and he once again was elected to be the chair of the Agriculture, Wildlife, and Rural Affairs Steering Committee. So he and his fellow county commissioner from Phillips County, Terry Huffmeister, will continue to work with the ag. And that's one of the areas that we continue to pay attention to it so much, because ag in Colorado is so imperative and so important, even for the counties that are either urban or metro. They're impacted with the ag initiatives that are being taken statewide. One of the could be proposed legislative bills that comes our way is another pause type initiative legislation. So Commissioner Haas and the group work directly with the Secretary of Agriculture, and I attend those meetings as well. And one of the important things that we have there is communication right up front of what could be, because ag is that imperative and that important to the state of Colorado. So that's what happened at CCI, and it was quite robust. I can tell you that there's so much passion within county commissioners statewide that we believe that we're making a difference, because every one of us represents a certain constituent group, and but we have the opportunity to dialogue. We have the opportunity to communicate and to disagree agreeably, and at the end of the day, understand why we're opposing or why we're supporting a certain piece of legislation. That was CCI. A couple of other meetings. Yesterday we had an opportunity to meet with Judy Walden from Walden group out of Denver, and one of the things that we were talking about, going over the PEL study that identified 14 different projects, and she believes that Los Angeles County and Guatemala counties could be the recipients of a grant coming from CDOT, either through the infrastructure bill and or from the still part of the ARPA dollars that would be there. So we're going to be reviewing, Mr. Doran Camp, the finance director, Coverly will be reviewing if there's an opportunity for Los Angeles County to provide a grant to CDOT and perhaps do some even signage along I-25 to indicate where Highway 12 is, or all throughout Highway 12, and direct our tourism industry to take advantage of the beauty that we have. In the last meeting that I want to report on, we had a meeting with the 3rd Judicial District, which is Guatemala County and San Luis County. Yesterday, I sit on that board, and we went over the statistics of the judicial system for the 3rd Judicial for fiscal year 18, 19, and 20. So we had a pretty good meeting yesterday. That's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Hess?
On January 24th, I attended the Southeast Colorado Opioid Response Region 19 board meeting, approximately 30 participants. Terry Schreiber from Schreiber Research Group presented findings of a study conducted in Crowley, Otero, and Adams counties. They found that all 3 counties experienced high numbers of overdose deaths, are in need of a broad range of services, programs, and activities, and that these individuals feel limited to services because of lack of energy, of recovery services, and stigma that surrounds the addictions. Mental health, ladies and gentlemen, is rearing its ugly head for us dealing with COVID, and especially in the ag industry. What we found out is suicide rates are climbing again this year. And last week I lost another friend that committed suicide. So I want to stay on top of this, and most of it is opioid related. The 5 funding areas that have been identified so far include the grants for individuals to access treatment, funding to create and maintain regional website or QR code. Number 3, prevention programming for schools, 4, capacity expansion grants using matching dollars, and number 5, workforce development. On the 26th of January, I attended the health board meeting, and Commissioner Luis Lopez will give a more in-depth report on that. On the 27th, I attended the TPR meeting. One of the main topics of that meeting was the multimodal projects. There's going to be 4 streams of funding, totaling $448 million. And the focus target is on disabled, disadvantaged, low income based on population, and the elderly is 65 and over. Also, there's going to be 2 different programs, a 25-50% match, or a 25% match means that the other 25% will come from other resources. Bus standing was a topic of conversation, looking at the route from Trinidad to Pueblo, and we're going to have a bus barn right here in Trinidad, and that's supposed to begin setup in March and be done. No, it's going out to bid in midsummer. On the 20th and 21st, I attended the Voices of Rural Colorado in Denver. This event was sponsored by Action 22, Club 20, and Pro 15. Primary purpose is for the education and engagement with stakeholders and legislators. Some of the presentations included affordable housing innovations by Geraldine Francis from the Colorado Finance Administration. Rick Garcia, Executive Director from DOLA, gave a presentation on the disaster recovery and how that's working out there because of the Boulder fire. Then there was several panel discussions that consisted of energy trainings in rural Colorado, rural economic development and workforce, sponsored by Lockheed Martin, Joe Rice. Overcoming mental health challenges in agriculture, hosted by the Colorado Farm Bureau, and the future of ag in Colorado had a round table that Kate Greenberg, Colorado Commissioner of Ag, Terry Frankhauser, Colorado County's Vice Chair, Nick Colblazer, President of Colorado Corn, and Vincent Austin from the Colorado Fair Farm Bureau, State Affairs Director. And they talked about the challenges that we're going to be, as ag producers, are going to be dealing with this in the near future, primarily around the water. And Mr. James Eklund gave a presentation on water and the possible new WOTUS rules. Special guests included Attorney General Phil Weiser. He also gave a presentation. Colorado opioid epidemic Heidi Williams gave a presentation. The governor was present. He met with some stiff questions about agriculture in general, and because of the state vet that resigned from that board, he was unaware of the context of the text that went out, that she sent out, and I happen to have it on my phone. I forwarded it to Sarah Blackhurst, our Director of Action 22, asked her to send that to Sandy Brown because it looked like the governor didn't know what had happened. And because of a group team effort, a lot of ag producers, a lot of ag organizations leaned on her pretty hard. She resigned 2 days later. Then on the last night, the 31st, I attended the Southeast Opioid Region 19 special meeting where we hired a new facilitator, former Commissioner Rose Puglisi, I believe is how you say her name? And she'll be working on as our facilitator and putting our meetings together and making sure that we're accountable with all of our meeting requirements. That's fine.
You forgot one, the report you gave me yesterday on the,
we'll wait on that.
he's heard.
Yeah, that's good.
Commissioner Haas was honored yesterday, so he wants to be humble today. Thank you, Commissioners. A lot of meetings going on, and I'm not going to double up some of the things that we attended. The TPR was saying, I will give it a little bit of TPR, but the 26th I did attend the Board of Health. During the COVID update from our Health Director, Kim Gonzalez, showed a little 3,100 cases of COVID in Los Angeles County, 21 plus 100 in Huerfano County, and we had a physician on the call that was there, and President Kevin gave us an update on how the Omicron is not nearly as dangerous moving forward, and it appears that it is subsiding some, and as it's mutating and changing, it looks like it's decreasing in severity. However, it's still very dangerous, according to the doctor and our health professionals that were on the call for that. The Board of Health is also doing some things with their facility over there, and the director with his electrical work and something that garage that recently built and going out to bid and stuff like that. So they're finalizing their campus, and I think we're having some funding, Christy already put aside for the parking lot for next summer over there as well, and the starter camp bid for the budget, so that will all be completed hopefully by this go out to bid in the summer. But the number of the Omicron has jumped a lot, but it is now starting to subside, so we're starting to see. So that's good to hear. Again, with the TPR, I was on the call with Commissioner Haas as well. And another point that they were looking at was the 10-year plan, and if there was going to be any changes, or and I don't think we heard much changes to that at this particular time, to their budgeting and how they have their projects for a 10-year scope. On the 27th, I attended my Council of Governments Board meeting, which was quite lengthy because we had the TBR early that morning and then the call in the afternoon. There's an issue that was brought up with the Council of Governments doing on the agenda for an appointment to the High-Speed Rail Commission. And after doing some investigation of the Senate Bill 21238, and after receiving advice by council, it appears that you have to be, first of all, there was 2 applicants for Council of Governments to appoint to the High-Speed Rail Commission. And after investigating and reading them, getting legal counsel, that those 2 candidates were not eligible to be appointed to the High-Speed Rail Commission. The way the bill measure reads is you must be a present or former board member of COG. So Council of Governments tabled that position, and they have until March 1st to place that appointee. And all of the appointees, all of the board members were contacted by the director, Mr. Ray King, and asking requests for anyone intending to apply, being present board members and possibly past board members. So I'm here informally to discuss with my fellow commissioners, since I'm a present board member, I would like to submit my letter of interest if it's okay with my board members.
I would certainly support that, and in fact, I would encourage that we would have a county commissioner from San Luis County sitting on that board. I would highly support that.
And I would concur. I think that the county representation out there, especially where this new district's going to be, to address those concerns of our constituents, I think is pertinent. So,
Thank you both. And I will pass that on to the committee when they make the appointment, when myself and any other board members are considered.
Mr. Chair, for the audience, just a quick reminder, one of the issues that is on this particular Senate bill, when it goes to the borders, there is a paragraph in there that implies eminent domain. And as it is understood, eminent domain has been debated back and forth. From the beginning, this Board of County Commissioners opposed that measure because for someone that owns 10-acre land between here and Wyoming, and that falls within eminent domain without the proper current market value, cost of replacement, and other measures in there. Personally, we stood in front of that and we opposed that, and that's one of the things that needs to continue to be addressed. And so, for that reason, I think you are you would be the responsible party to speak on behalf of the constituents.
Thank you, and you have my word that I will not forget those folks. And the other possible issue too is the taxing measure that will be imposed on San Luis County. I will fight for that taxing measure, possibly, if made in place, that we will have the services that will go with that same taxing measure. So if we're going to pay for it, we better have it here. So I'll thank you for your confidence and being your voice for Southern Colorado and San Luis County. And that is all I have. For that, we will now go to public comment. Tony Riley, come on up, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I've heard you sing. You're awesome. Good morning. I'm Tony Riley, and I live on San Pedro Ranch. I've been up there about 20 years. I have rewritten our community wildfire protection plan twice, the only updates we've had over the years. And I'm here today to solicit your support for a situation at Exit 2. I provided Commissioner Haas with some paperwork. There was a picture on the front cover of the exit, which goes under the railroad. And several months ago, those H pylons were put on both ends. And it concerns me mainly because I've worked in forest health and wildfire protection for all these years, and I'm very aware of the need and value of emergency exits. And so I have talked to our Colorado State Forester. Page 2 of that little package I put together is his letter strongly urging that they be removed. I've had phone conversations with Sheriff Navarrete, Kim Chavez, Buddy Pearl, the District Fire Chief, Bob Macero, and they are all of the same agreement, at least in our phone conversations, that exits are good. And
is this currently on private property?
no, that is on the railroad property. There is, and I'll mention it in a minute, but the bottom line is, and I've also initiated communications with the Colorado Department of Safety, and what I'm here today for is the back page letter I wrote asking for signatures of those 4 people I mentioned that I had the phone conversations with. And I would gladly add all of yours and anybody else that you feel like adds value to get those removed. The reasons for it is there's a lot of confusion in the fire. You've probably all been around long enough to remember the Mauricio Canyon fire 15 years ago up northwest of Aguilar. Nighttime, people evacuating from what our forester at the time, C.K. Morris, said. He has a nice presentation on that. Driving in the night in the direction of the oncoming fire just to escape. Luckily, nobody was hurt. I think buildings were destroyed, 5,000 to 6,000 acres destroyed. I used to live for 18 years right above where the fire just happened in South Boulder. It was up in Coffee Canyon. I had a bird's eye view. I was up at 8,500 feet, and I know the area well. That was just grass. According to our forester, we may be loading up if we don't start getting some significant spring moisture for a very high fuel situation again this year. And you guys are the ones that are driving the fire bans. You know how many we've had in recent years. That exit is also valuable for emergency responders or for people that live up there that need medical emergency services getting out themselves. And it's 5 miles of dirt road to the interstate if you don't go out and exit 2. There is a squabble right now between the board and some of the owners down there, including the one that owns the land, that the egress is to exit 2. They want it open for themselves and for other people. And I'm not asking you to get involved in the squabble that's going on there. Apparently there's going to be litigation. I wish they would solve that in the family, so to speak. It's a big ranch, but so far that hasn't happened. And what I'm trying to do is put together a package. I've already been identified with the contacts with BNSF headquarters in Fort Worth. And so when I wrote that letter, after I talked to the folks that the signatures are on it, sent it to them, then I got word, you guys need to be involved, approve that. And so that's really what I'm here for. No person involved in forestry, involved in emergency response, involved in wildfires, understands what can happen in wildfire, whether it's some of the people are cut off from exit 6. I've talked to nobody that said this is good to close an exit. And so I don't know how the personal squabble between the board and the people down there is going to work out. Personally, I don't feel like the board has any standing. And it possibly, I'm not saying that, but possibly could be a board member that has talked with BNSF that got that done in terms of the H pylons to block the railroad, which I've been told by people that know some of the locals and some of the people involved in putting those H pylons in, that the railroad wasn't even in favor of doing it. And the whole reason that this squabble has started is some people, well-intentioned, think that the criminal element is going to come through exit 2. I closed off exit 2. We're not going to have the criminal element. Well, very few people that would be up for doing crimes even know about that exit. If you don't live on the ranch, you don't know about it. Everybody knows exit 6, where everybody goes on and off, is wide open. And so that argument really doesn't hold water. And I would, personally, if it was up to me, we'd have controlled access at exit 2 and 6. And Sheriff Navarrete said, if you want to, protect yourself from crime, that's a good idea. But again, beyond what I'm here for, so number one, I'm asking, will you allow the county officials on that letter to sign it? And number two, are you interested in helping out beyond that? Do you want signatures on that?
I got questions for you. I used to live up there at exit 2. And there is another exit that's further north, about a mile down the road that crosses the railroad.
That has been closed. We fought for years to get it open before we had to redo the bridge at exit 6. And from what I understand, railroads, roadmasters, they hate flat crossings. We all know about the disaster north of town. Any chance they can get to get one out, they're going to send it. I have a brother that's been a lifelong railroader, high up in different places, national job in Washington, D.C. With the Railroad Safety Commission. He's always told me, railroads, they hate things over the right of way, they hate flat crossings, they have very little concern about things that go underneath it.
Well, right there at that crossing in Morgan, to me, that looks like it would be the more advantageous one, because the one going up Gaswell Canyon, I know this development doesn't cross the state line up there, I know that.
Right.
And everything from the state line to the south is private property. And so that easement that goes underneath that railroad bridge, that was a railroad easement only to the property owner. Now that
Well, we're not talking the same one there.
the bridge going at exit 2.
Well, at exit 2, once you get off, you can kind of veer to the left, south, if you will, and just slightly, and there is a bridge under that goes to
That's
the
what I
ranch.
used to go to my house.
Okay. My conversation is about, I don't know what would be, quarter mile north of that, the one picture there, which is a tunnel. And as far as I know, and you know more about this than me if you grew up there, but even before the existence of Santa Fe Trail Ranch, I think whether you want to use adverse possession or whatever, I think that has been openly and notoriously used as a exit through there all the time. And then in the existence of Santa Fe Trail Ranch, since that south end was platted, that has been open. There's been some, for lack of a better word, squabbles over the recent years about should it be open or shouldn't. Obviously, the people down there want to get on the interstate there. I'm not letting them fight their own battle on that. I'm just concerned about the emergency situation. I mean, we have a lady, a part-time lady that lives on the ranch that was caught up in Costco parking lot on that fire 3 or 4 weeks ago in Boulder. And she described, and we're talking middle of the day, on a sunny day, just to get out of the parking lot. You couldn't see 2 feet. And then you go into a nighttime situation, and that's just amplified all the more. There's a lot of confusion. Some people acting intelligently, some people not. Some people loading up their RVs or whatever, or blocking the road. Some people not knowing where the fire's at, where the fire's coming from. It just makes sense to have it open.
Mr. Riley, traditionally, we want to engage question and answer that for the board during public comment. However, with this severe an issue, will allow some latitude to take up. The question I have is this bridge here, is this an I-25?
No, it just goes under the railroad.
So this just goes underneath the railroad?
Right.
So the railroad probably owns that?
Yes.
That's why they put the railroads on did that?
Yes, but like I say, I think, and I don't like to hypothesize, but I think they were instigated by folks that wanted it closed and didn't feel like they had understanding or they were going to win their legal squabble with the landowner down there.
The purpose of my questions is just so we can get clarification, so we can ask legal counsel for advice how we move forward.
Sure.
So the other question I have is, do you know if this bridge is on the historic registry?
I do not. I do know that going back 20 years ago when I bought my property, my brother saw, I said, oh, Road Pass Railway. He said, it's every roader in the country knows it because of the slopes and the curves and stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
And then
one thought on that also is that's still a timber track. Most of the replacements and new stuff going in is concrete, and those creosote ties, they go fast in the Northwest. Millions and millions of dollars worth of them were replaced on the fires last summer.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, was that road access on a regular basis?
It was by the residents down there, other than times when, again, the board, and I'm not going to question all their intentions or whatever, most of them are my friends, but you know, I think they're just misguided on understanding the possibility of loss of harm or loss of life and the value of that exit.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the board, but I do find issue with this for public safety reasons. So what we'll do is we'll address our council and we'll have Mr. Camp look into this a little bit more before we can come out and formally. We have to have it as an action item in order for us to say, yes, we'll sign something or no, we won't or something like that. So we just basically dialogue today and we can't do anything further for action on this or on behalf of our other officials, which would be the county sheriff and our emergency manager, I believe who is on the list here, and also our county planner. We can't, we can't speak on their behalf or give them permission. They could possibly do so as their own entity. They don't necessarily need the county commissioner's support at this time or approval, being that they're on the next office. However, it would be probably best that we're all on the same page. So
what would the time frame be, or
right, a couple weeks, we could probably put on the next agenda, Pam. Do you think you have time to look at it?
It's on for executives today.
Okay.
so
We could probably have this.
you'll have another meeting in a week?
In 2 weeks.
And so I should come back in 2 weeks and hear the results of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then just to be clear, my intention is for whoever from the county officials signs that letter, or if they want to create another letter, however they want to do it, I would put that in the package going back to.
They can do it on their own court, so the sheriff Everett could do so, his own letter.
To make it easy for all of them, when I had my phone conversations, I said I'd write a letter, and if it was agreeable with you, if you would sign it. And so that's where I'm at with that letter. You would prefer to wait until after you guys have had your executive session and.
Well, it has to be an action item. We can't vote on it here today.
Right.
Even after the executive session today. It has to be listed, posted, discussed, and holding. So it'll be 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
I'll do that. Hold on just for 2 weeks.
I will. And then my intention is that also and I think I'm kind of waiting for this letter to go back to Colorado Department of Public Safety and then take the whole package, our forester, Colorado Department of Public Safety, whatever I get out of the county, and then, and I don't mean to say that the wrong way, because I do have connections, people that can tell me who to talk to at BNSF headquarters. I would take that whole package to them, unless the county or somebody else preferred to pursue it with BNSF. But if you prefer not to, then hey, I'll do it. And just to make sure to Tony's question, or maybe it was yours, all I'm talking about is BNSF Railroad. Let the other folks fight it out however they want to regarding the access. I heard you mention eminent domain and so on. And I think I'm in the same mind as you about private property rights myself.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll definitely put it on for discussion, and if we can, if we're at that point, we'll put it on for the next board meeting, and please come join us. Okay, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. Okay, do we have anyone else for public comment? I don't have anybody signed up here on the Zoom call. If there is, we have give you a few minutes to speak. Hearing none, we were going. Do we have somebody? No. We're going to our presentations today with County Assistant Jody Amato and Pictometry.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I have asked Jason Brown, he is the representative from Pictometry, to come give us a little presentation as we are looking to hopefully get a contract and get our next schedule of flights going so we can keep our Pictometry imagery up to date. He's here to help prove and show how valuable Pictometry is to our county and why we need it. There seems to be a lot of talk right now about fires, and Jason can touch up on the role and impact Pictometry had on the Boulder fires. God bless those folks. And just so we can present it to the board and the folks watching and everybody that needs to know the benefits and why I'm asking to get this tool updated. I truly feel that it is a valuable tool. I can tell you, and the numbers can show you that we have been able to do our job well and do it more efficiently with the use of pictometry and the many facets and other applications that we've used it on. Our sheriff's department has used it for literally life-threatening situations. Our district attorney has used it for court cases. Planning has used it. My office, of course, uses it. It has multiple applications, and it's a tool that every office can use in its own way. So this is Mr. Jason Brown, and he's going to do a small presentation for you gentlemen and ladies.
Morning, Mr. Brown, welcome.
Good morning, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to come today, and thank you, Jody, for the introduction. I think I was talking to Jody and Luis. I think you were here when I was about 6 years ago or so. So
I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here, and you weren't in that chair last time. Again, thank you. So again, my name is Jason Brown. I work for a company called Eagleview. We used to be called Pictometry. We still call our imagery Pictometry. So if you hear those two words, Eagleview Pictometry, they're interchangeable for the most part. But I'll get right into it. I only have about 12 slides, so I won't take up too much of your time. I'll have some time for you guys to ask some questions. So we'll get right into it. So as you know, take a look at that. That's an aerial photography, aerial imagery, which you've probably seen on Google Maps and various softwares and websites on that. Would any of you commissioners or Phil or anybody else care to guess what building that is or what type of building that is, just by looking at that image?
Two-story.
Two-story. Anything else?
It's like a jail facility.
Jail facility?
Yeah, pretty dark, yeah.
Some type of residential from.
Yeah, kind of looks residential. There's one thing that gives it away.
Jody knows she's a trained guy.
She's probably seen it.
The steeple
There you go. Why do you see this? Where do you see the steeple?
on your next slide.
Phil's cheating. Maybe you might have that dance. Might be too far away.
Next slide.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a church. Right, you see the steeple, and from that previous image, you can see the shadow of the steeple, right? So if you're only making decisions off that straight roof down the picture, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Obviously, I just asked a simple question on what it was, and there's multiple guesses, multiple conversation. But if I were to show this one first, you guys probably would have all said the same. Church or temple or some sort of religious building. And if you go back one slide, so if you look to that, what kind of looks like a cement pad to the right there is actually part of the building. Well, many people say, parking lot. So if you go to the next slide, Phil, you can see that from this angled image, it's not a parking lot, right? So that changes how whether you're assessing that property, whether you're a sheriff or first responder going to
There's
that property.
somebody on the roof, I think. Or what is it?
Pipes.
It's a vent pipe.
Yeah, probably an HVAC or vent pipe. But that's what pictometry imagery, that's what we provide, is that not only the straight down image, but also what we call an oblique angle image. Next slide, please. And it's not just that one shot, it's north, south, east, west of basically every square inch of the area that we collect, we capture for you. So this is across the project area or across the county, however you want to take a look at it. And it's not only just the picture, but it's also intelligent imagery. So any data that you guys have here at the county, whether street center lines or fire hydrants or tax parcels, information that Jody's office puts out, all that data can be overlaid on top of this imagery to give you the image more value. So if you take a look at Colorado, and I know that list over there is kind of small, maybe for you guys just to read or see, but there's 27 counties currently in the state that are customers of ours. So a little more than 40% of all the counties in the state. Obviously, you guys have listed there, I've highlighted the largest county in the state, if I'm correct, right? By about 20 square miles or so, Vermont County. So you're not alone in the technology that you guys use. You have a lot of counterparts in other counties that also use that imagery. So just to kind of look back, so we did our first project here in Los Angeles County in 2016. We flew the entire county, all except for the Indian Canyon maneuver site. A little less than 4,400 square miles, which came back and did a second project, but only about a quarter of the county, the western edge of the county, where more of the growth and more of the development has occurred. So that was a little less than 1,000 square miles. And as Jody kind of mentioned, it's used by many, many departments here in the county. Assessor's office, sheriff's office, planning, elections, clerk, road and bridge. So it's not a tool that's specifically built for assessment. It's a county. I'm not sure the local municipalities use it.
No, not yet.
Okay, but by our licensing, we can. So any entity within the county here, whether special district, fire district, municipality, they all have access to it with your list.
Is there just one drone?
It's not a drone, it's all fixed wing aircraft.
Okay. So can all of those departments use this program at the same time?
Absolutely.
I have, and all of them have their own passwords and logins.
You could access.
Yeah, you
You
guys
can access it.
Yeah, when we were just talking about that location of the railroad crossing, or you guys can provide it up right now and look at it. Right?
Next time we look. So on the federal lands, Indian Canyon, do they have their own, and I know that jurisdictionally they're completely off and they're standalone, but we have some other, like federal public lands that are actually probably on this inventory. Do they have their own inventory? I know they take care of all within their confines of.
Right, Indian Canyon, we cannot fly because they are not taxable. And there's federal laws and issues like that. Now, Fisher's Peak, our state land owned properties, we have imagery of those.
Okay.
Our BLM sections, our state land, just not Indian Canyon, because that is a federal maneuver site.
And I think before the 2016 flight, I think we reached out to them
We did,
to ask if they wanted us to fly, because we would fly.
yeah.
I think they said no.
I believe
Because
it
they
was
do
a
live
very
fire and everything.
stern no.
Sure.
Yeah, live fire, there was mock, at that time, there was mock buildings, mock towns for military training. There was some issues there, so we were told no.
So in 2019, if I remember correctly, we approved a second wave of flight of pentameter services.
Yep.
For Highway 12, was it west, if I remember correctly, or was it out east?
We did 160
The 160.
to the west, so we could catch, because like Jason said, that's our most populated area. We have all our subdivisions that direction. We're more rural country. Our agricultural end is to the east of our county, so we wanted to obtain newer imagery where we were having buildings being built, and we're still having buildings going up without notification and things of that nature. So that's where this tool is invaluable, because we, instead of not having them on the tax roll or having those structures on the tax roll for a 10 to 20 year period, we were able to pick those up in these regular flights because we have a tool called Change Finder. And what Change Finder does is we have our first imagery, and now we have our 29th imagery. We fly again, all of that imagery goes in to a database, and it tells us what parcels have had a change in their footprint. So either a demolition, somebody has torn something down, or somebody's made an addition. And so we can easily identify, find those parcels, and get those buildings and structures on the tax roll with minimal labor.
So does your service flag a change in a property, so the assessor's office will say, hey, look at this guy over here?
Yes,
Yep.
specifically for structures.
For structures.
Yeah. So we create outlines of every structure over 150 square feet. And so we'll take those outlines, then overlay them on newer imagery, updated imagery, and then identify where those outlines don't match the structure.
So I guess you're here because we're coming up for possibly another
Flight
in 2023.
Actually, the plan would be to fly this spring.
This spring.
So that's that'll be another meeting with the proposal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a change finder, it actually allows, I have one staff member who is she actually handles pictometry every day. She can add on 50 structures in a day and never leave the office. Her safety is secure because she's not out running into local folks or folks we have that are here growing wonderful marijuana illegally. So she's safe in an office. We don't have wear and tear with fuel prices being where they're at. We're saving on that. It just, COVID issues, she is safe. We're not having people interaction, and we can do our jobs more efficiently and get, by law, we have to put structures on the tax roll. So we're creating a fair and equitable tax roll for all of our districts, your school districts, your fire districts, your first responders, because that's revenue into their budgets, so they can provide services.
You gave me a segue for my next question there. How much in dollars has the county raised due to the pictometry services we are allowed?
So a little return on investment side. So Jody put all these numbers for me together. So since 2016, you can see there's been multiple millions of dollars added to the tax roll every year. And that's just Jody and her office going through parcel by parcel, adding buildings to their tax roll that weren't there previously. So over the past, well, including 2023, which is kind of moving forward, but in total, $114 million has been added to the tax roll using the imagery.
The assessed evaluations?
That's the assessed valuation. Our total revenue, estimated total revenue, is $309,410.
Just for the county?
Just for the county. And that seems small compared to the 114, but we also have to remember our general operating mill is 9.357.
Okay. But all the other taxing districts are
20 mills on average.
right? So
Yes.
There's
So they are seeing a significant amount of revenue into their coffers for Trinidad Ambulance, all of our fire districts, our school districts. So that's our education of our children. That is, heaven forbid, as we've heard already, we could be piling up and fueling up for a severe fire. I mean, these are volunteer fire departments that need every bit of revenue so they can help fight these catastrophes. Heaven forbid, I don't want to see them count, but should they have revenues to help combat.
So how do these images hold up when you have a protest of findings and you go into litigation? Do they hold up fairly well?
They do. I actually happened to win the very first year we flew, and as Chairman Lopez can tell you, I had numerous taxpayers took me to what is called the Board of Assessment Appeals in Denver, which is essentially assessor's tax court. And with my pictometry findings, I won every case. That is 5 so far.
Yeah, and every image is date stamped, and actually time stamped, but date stamped on the screen. So you can see this image was flown April 13th, 2022. So you have
traditionally you fly before the foliage starts. Correct?
Yeah, preferably yes. Dealing with Mother Nature and weather doesn't sometimes always work out how we like it, but yes, that's the goal.
And to go back to your question, Commissioner Haas, when we have appeals at my level, a picture is worth 1,000 words. We have had multiple issues where we pull up that. People have argued with us about garages, decks, additions, their house being 1 story, not 2, barns, any type of structure. When we pull up that imagery and say, well, is this not your home? Is this not your property? It stops that appeal process right there.
Well, and then you have the different view perspectives.
Yes. And that time to date is invaluable because people have always said, well, we haven't built it yet. Well, that's strange. You have a complete enclosed clearing building, or you have a complete enclosed garage. You added 1,000 square feet onto your house and it's enclosed. So it's been a valuable tool for assessment purposes. Invaluable, I can tell you that.
And one question I'll ask on behalf of legal counsel. We are not violating anybody's private, personal space, correct?
No, so the imagery is very detailed, very high resolution. However, it's not to the fact of like CSI on TV or anything. So you can't zoom in to see someone's face or a license plate or into windows. So it's not that. And it's, a single photograph and 2 or 3 year span, so it's not surveillance either. Right? So it's more just to get a picture of what's there, and that's it. I wanted to call out, so 2021, obviously, we've been dealing with the pandemic and COVID. So that $31 million that Jody and her office added to their tax roll was, I think, majority or all of it was working from home, and you guys were locked down when the warehouse was locked down. So not only were they able to continue to do their job, they added the most value that they've ever done. And that's to the benefit, because this, the 99% of all our customers that access this data, they're accessing it over the web, so through our cloud servers, so they can do it from home, they can do it from their office, they can do it from their car, and their laptop if they have connectivity. So it's really adaptable to being conducive to public health. So that's why actually I've had a handful of counties here in Colorado, and many across the country have put ARPA funds towards our technology to fly, because it does satisfy public health mandate, or not mandate, but directives from the ARPA funds. Okay, and we put together a document, so 3 out of the 5 eligible use cases for ARPA we satisfy. So,
Can I ask one question? Yep. The total revenue of $309,000. How much did it cost the taxpayers of Los Angeles County to get that $309 over that 6-year period, 5-year period?
So that 6 year, I think it was about $450,000. Maybe a little bit more.
And on the flip side, technically by Colorado statute, I should have at least 7 employees right now in my office. I have 5. So it's allowed us to replace 2 FTEs. So that's a cost savings. We're not out, like I said, fuel cost, wear and tear on tires, the safety overall of sending people out into the field, the ease where we could literally drive in a county of our size, being the largest county, we could drive 200 miles, get to a locked gate, and not be able to get to that structure or that property, whereas with pictometry, we have been able to do that.
Well, and then taking it over to the sheriff's office.
Yes.
In the event that they have a search and rescue and or other response, emergency phone call, they know exactly what they're going to. They know the property, they can assess any challenges arriving there. So to me that, safety, absolutely.
There is no cost to safety. That leads me to my next story. Commissioner, our sheriff was going to be here, but he had another meeting at 10. I don't know if Sheriff Navrat is still on the phone, but pictometry was used to actually save a woman's life this summer. The woman called, she was being accosted, she could not tell them where she was. They dropped a pin from her Latin lung, and they were able to find a 2-tractor road on the far east and northeast end of our county while she was in the middle of being physically assaulted. They were able to find her and save her life. So to me, human life has no price on it. To me, yes, it's been a cost, but how many other situations in our county where we have people living in fifth wheels, tough sheds, people living in remote areas that they might not know where they are at, we don't have a physical address. First responders in this lady's life was saved because they were able to pull that imagery up on their tablet and find her. So to me, human life has no value. I mean, it has value, it has no price. Or the price you pay to save somebody's loved one is...
And I don't doubt the validity of the project, but I understand Phil's question, and I know you know how frugal Christy is with our money. So basically last year, or by those numbers that we were looking at, it's kind of a wash, right?
Yes.
So we kind of broke even.
Well, but I will say, so that's property tax, right? And that's paid annually, right? So the sooner you get those structures that you're missing on that tax roll, the more recurring revenue you're going to be.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we did 31 million last year, and we came to do this year. And of course, we're here for a short time as commissioners. There might be some commissioners down in the future that are available to pass and raise a mill levy increase in Los Angeles County. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm looking forward to that as one of these years, hopefully before I get out of office. and that would probably assist in this. So I understand the investment the Commissioner has versus the rate of return, and Mr. Dornkamp's concerns. Just moving forward is traditionally up to the tax where the dollars are available, and if the Board of Commissioners approves or not. I approved it. I wasn't here in 16. I was getting elected at that time, but I did approve the 19. So.
I only have a few more slides, and then we'll get out of here. You might have to click a couple times here to have more. So, what Jody and I are proposing moving forward. So, what you guys signed back in 2016, or not you guys, but the county, was a 6-year contract with 2 flights, so we flew every 3 years. And so we're proposing a similar contract again, so 2 flights in 6 years. This first proposed project to occur in spring 2022 would primarily focus on the western half of the county. Okay, so you can see in that map of Pinyon Canyon Riverside up there. So that blue area kind of focuses on more the Trinidad and urban areas in the town. Is Aguilar up there?
Yeah, Aguilar's the blue one up towards the
So
north.
that's 2-inch resolution imagery, so that's more detailed resolution imagery, and then all that purple is 6-inch. So because it's more rural areas and less stuff like you have in urban areas, you don't need as high a resolution, obviously, and also that saves on cost. Keep clicking. So it includes all the change finder, which Jody talked about. The Connect 100 is just our cloud application, so accessing it over the web. And keep going. So disaster response, so that's a big thing I want to touch on. Go back one more. Phil. There you go. So obviously we were just talking about the Boulder fire that is devastating. But Boulder County has been a customer of ours for about 15 years. We flew right after their floods in 2013. We flew 2 days after that fire that occurred. And so in every contract that we do with government, there's a disaster response program that says that there's any type of natural disaster, they're listed in there, that will either come back and fly it at no cost or at a reduced rate, depending on the size and scope of what that event was. So having that before and after imagery is extremely invaluable. I do know that in Boulder and Larimer counties after the 2013 floods, that they got every penny they requested from FEMA.
Now, is that needed to be done on the request of the county commissioners to do so, or is it just an automatic, there's a natural disaster here, Los Angeles County, you come fly?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit. So if I know of it, I'll typically reach out to my point of contact at the county, like in Boulder, it was their justice person. And I said, hey, are you guys wanting us to fly this? And he said, yes. So we went ahead and fly it before we had any type of contract or anything to do that.
So, and my next question would it be traditionally residential areas? Third question is, we had a fire on Fisher's Peak a couple of years ago. Do we need you for that, or no? What was that, Felix?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so I don't think
I don't think
that's
he
what we
did.
would.
I think I do remember
He
you.
did, Jason did reach out
There
to
wasn't any
us.
structures.
There wasn't
Right,
any
and I think that's
structure.
one of the reasons why we didn't. Okay. We did fly the Spring Creek fire. You remember in State County where it was? That's one first.
So in the case of Boulder, what would a resident of that community have to do to work with their insurance adjuster in the event that the insurance say, no, you didn't have that, or yes? And I would imagine that Pictometry has the inventory of that. So in that case, would a citizen in Boulder contact the county to get, because in fact, we're last week we talked about this very thing about insurances only having the 80-20 payment back, and we would like to recover, of course, 100% for the homeowner so they can rebuild again.
Those taxpayers would just need to contact their local assessment.
Well, that's actually in Boulder County. All this imagery is available through their system's
Online.
web map.
There's their online.
So we allow you as a county to decide whether or not you want to make this data publicly available. Okay, so through your county web map, and you can do just the straight overhead imagery, which a lot of counties do, or you can do both the oblique imagery as well as straight overhead. The one thing we do restrict is the measurement tools. So measuring property, measuring, so that's restricted to internal only.
Will you be able to charge a fee for that?
Currently, if somebody comes in, we are charging them just a flat fee of like a hard paper copy, but that is something we can probably discuss.
So you go to the next slide, Phil. So this next, and just skip all the way through. This next half would be at spring of 2025, so 3 years beyond this. Covering the other half, less, obviously there's less urban areas there, so there'd be less of that high resolution and then more of that 6-inch.
And we haven't flown the east side of our county since 2016.
So it's been 6 years since.
Build anything on your place, Tony?
If you want to find out.
Joe, you'll let me know.
And you can just go ahead and skip to the next slide, Phil. And one of the benefits that we as a company provide, and go ahead and click it again. So we allow you to average that cost over the life of the contract. So for those 2 flights over 6 years, averaged out $113,000 a year approximately. It might change a little bit because working with the change finder and the parcels, I have to get a correct count and everything, but for the most part, it'll be about that cost as just a flat annual budget. Now, if you want to use ARPA funds and pay for a chunk of it up front, that's Washington County did that just recently. That's fine too. We're flexible as far as payment terms, but this is one thing that a lot of counties like us to do because then they can budget it every year.
And you'll have this as an action item?
Yes,
Or
I'll get a contract to Ms. Pam so she can look at it and give her seal of approval. One point I wanted Jason to bring up was because Colorado, we are budgeted yearly to yearly. If something should change with our budgets, we are not committed to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the multi-year contract.
Yeah, so there's a clause in the contract that talks about annual appropriation. So for example, if 2 years from now or 3 years from now, we're coming up on that second flight and your budgets have been cut or decreased and you're just not in the cards and you want to postpone it a year or something like that, then you have every right to do so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, that's great.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you,
Mr.
gentlemen.
Martin.
I will get a contract from Pam and we'll see if we can get it hopefully on the next meeting. Thank you.
Commissioner, just as a side note, there is money budgeted for a pictometry. But it's on a 6-year basis instead of 3-year flights. But there is money budgeted.
Thank you.
Jason, good to see you.
Thank you.
You take care.
I don't have anything to update, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Moving on, elected officials update, and Mr. Lotto doesn't have anything. Sheriff Navarrete indicated to me he had another meeting at 10 o'clock, and he had no updates as well. Mr. Mestis, is you the last one in the room, elected officials, would you like,
We don't have any updates at this time, but we have a couple of items on the agenda.
okay. Mrs. Leonetti, if you were on the call, do you have any updates for the board?
She's doing 1099s, she said to tell you.
She's
So
doing
not on
1099s, all right. Everybody working today, good. So no updates. And we have no unfinished business. Move on to item 8A, consideration of IFB 21-C001 courthouse sidewalk retaining wall. Mr. Brogan.
Commissioner, before you is the results of our bid solicitation for IFB 21-C001 sidewalk retaining wall. There were no bids. So what kind of action you need to take on it, since there were no bids and all, if it's okay with the board, I will rebid the.
Did we just advertise locally or did we advertise regionally?
I think administrative assistant Paula Lucero advertised locally, Pueblo. I'm not sure we went that total direction, the next direction is well listed.
Is there a way to,
And actually, in emergency manager, HR director Kim Chavez also has a site, and I can't recall it, but she posted it up there to the contractors to look at for.
And she said that we're not to 85 different entities.
I was just gonna check and see if Colorado bids, I don't know if that's only for state entities, or if counties could actually jump on and post any RFPs, bids, and requests for qualifications, whatever. But I know that has, used to have hundreds and hundreds of vendors registered, because they pay an annual fee to be part of that. And so it might be an option.
What do you surmise were the challenges of getting new bids on that project? It doesn't seem that.
I think the contractors have plenty of work for themselves right now, Commissioners, that they, for this retaining wall, it's going to take some specialty, I would say specialty forms, for lack of a better way of describing it. You want the little dome left there in each one of the columns, not that there, but reconstructed that way. So it's going to take the contractor a while to cut all those little forms that's going to be needed for each one of the little nuances that we'd like to see. And I think right now they've got enough work with their typical forms, pouring symbols and basements, et cetera, that they really don't need the work. But what I'll do also is I'll extend the deadline. I think I had a deadline at the end of June. I'll extend it to the end of September, and perhaps get some contractors taking a better look at it. And I did reach out to one contractor to see if there's anything within the bid document that I needed to change to make it more attractive, and I never received a response, so I haven't yet anyway.
And this was also taking into consideration the reduction of moving it to feedback?
No, sir.
Okay.
We decided to put the wall right where the existing wall is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burkett. Item B, consideration of IFB 22-C0014F1 medium utility passenger vehicle. Mr. Burkett.
Commissioners, again, we solicited bids for a utility vehicle advertised locally and throughout the Front Range. We received one bid back from John Elway Chevrolet for $31,351 for a Chevy Blazer. I checked state bid prices, and John Elway was also awarded the state bid for the identical vehicle with the identical salesperson. So I spoke with her name's Sarah Dudgian, and the state bid price for that identical vehicle is $29,432. So it'd be my recommendation to the commissioners to reject all of our bids that we got and allow us to purchase off the state bid and save the taxpayers about $1,900.
And this vehicle is being purchased for our emergency office.
This vehicle is going to be purchased for general use. Yes.
No other questions?
Is there a step in the process you would notify the responsible bidders of the rejection of the bid because the statewide bid has a lower price, or what is under procurement? What is the step that you would have to take to cancel?
If the board decides to reject all the bids, that's what I'll tell that salesperson. I already gave her a heads up. That's what was going to be my recommendation. When you say $1,900, it's $1,900 saving. That would be, that's what I'll do, and I contact her and tell her that we want to purchase off the state bid, not off the bid that she submitted.
Sounds about the commission rate for that sales rate. David, if there are no other questions, concerns, entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve this IFB, to rescind the bids and accept the state bid for $29,432 for the passenger, what is that?
utility vehicle.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese Lopez?
Yes. Item C, consideration of IFP 22-A001, paving hangar taxiways at Perry Stokes Airport.
Commissioner, I'm going to jump back and say we also had $35,000 budgeted for the utility purchase, vehicle purchase, so we're within budget. We also solicited bids for paving in between the hangars out at the airport. We've had, years ago, the road and bridge department put down asphalt millings, and we applied an asphalt rejuvenating agent on the top, which usually penetrates from a quarter to a half an inch and kind of helps firm up the surface, but it is not pavement anymore. It isn't compacted to a certain density. That being said, those millings are starting to fall apart and causing some of the pilots out there, and I can't blame them, to get some heartburn, especially when those millings come up and start dinging the props on their planes. So we went ahead and solicited bids to pave in between those hangars with the following results. Walsenburg Sand and Gravel, $149,615. A&S Construction, $167,238. And we had $150,000 budgeted for this. So that's the board to approve Walsenburg Sand and Gravel's bid of $149,615.
And one question. Have you had a chance to have a discussion with both of these contractors regarding I know we had a problem with shortage of oil last year in applications. We had to put a couple projects from Walsenburg, I think, on hold. Due to that fact, is there still concern that that's going to happen this coming summer?
I spoke with the oil, and he told me no. He says that the oil availability looks really good. And as a matter of fact, they're looking at, because the board approved the change order on one of our projects that they're paving Longs Canyon and south of Walmart until April of this year, and they told me it looked like that they started in Longs Canyon in April this year. So as of right now, no, the oil, the concern with not having enough oil isn't there. He said it looked like that the supplies are going to be good.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Arquette?
I know this is going to make a lot of those pilots happy when we get that down.
Yes, it will. Perhaps we can bring some of them back that left and rent our hangars.
I move for approval of IFB 22-A001, paving hangar taxiways at Perry Stokes Airport. The bid going to Walsenburg Sand and Gravel at $149,615.
I second that motion.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item D, consideration of OBCC number 6978 to Tyler Erickson for $8.20. Mr. Mestis.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, this one is just a withdrawal of the title application. So just refunding in just the title.
Any questions for Mr. Arquette? I'm sorry, Mr. Mestis. Entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve OBCC number 6978 to Tyler Erickson in the amount of $8.20.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item E, consideration of OBCC number 6979 to United Parcel Service for $46.53. Mr. Mestis.
This is just a refund. UPS sends in multiple renewals, and sometimes they'll occasionally send one from another area. And so rather than us reject the full check, we just renew the ones that are here in this county, and then that particular one is just going back to them for another county.
No other questions? Entertain a motion, please.
Move for approval of OBCC number 6979 to United Parcel Service for $46.53.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item F, consideration of OBCC number 6980 to Dirk Davis for $500.25. Mr. Mestis.
This one is a refund. He was overcharged state tax. The dealership that ended up collecting the state tax, and when he came in, he was charged state tax. So this is just a refund of state tax, which was already paid.
And I recognize the name, Mr. Bates. I have no other questions or concerns. Entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve LACBCC number 6980 to Mr. Dirk Davis for $500.25.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vestas. Have a great day. Item G, consideration of L3 DOS Aviation lease at Harry Stokes Airport. Mr. Rucker.
Commissioners, L3 DOS leased 2 office spaces out at the Perry Stokes Airport within the terminal. And this is a renewal of that lease. They want to have a 3-year lease. It's a 3% increase over the 3 years.
And when do they expect to be using the facility?
They have not let me know actually when they're going to physically move in, but that's okay because we don't end up incurring utility or any other costs, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out if it was going to coincide with our paving that we're going to be doing out there, so that was why I asked the question.
But I believe, Commissioner, they are still doing their touch and goes with their training plans. I can't remember what they're called. Air Force Academy, I believe they're helping with their pilots and some of the other military pilots. Still doing touch and goes out there. So.
Councilor, do you have any issues?
No, I reviewed, they've made requested changes,
If there are no other questions from Mr. Duncan, entertain a motion, please.
I'm looking forward to generating some revenue out there. Move for approval of L3 DOS Aviation lease at Perry Stokes Airport.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item H, consideration of CDOT road inventory submittal. Mr. Duncan.
Commissioner, before you is our annual report to CDOT for our road inventory. They use the road inventory to calculate as a portion of the calculations on the highway user tax, the highway user trust fund revenues we receive. So I ask the board to approve this unless there's any questions.
Just a quick question, was there any probably deduction of road inventory for this particular versus previous years?
Not that I recall, we changed, the only changes we had this year was the paving from the end of the asphalt in Riley Canyon up Garcia Hill and back to the west, to close to the lane trail.
No other questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the L3 DOS Aviation lease at Perry Stokes Airport. I'm sorry. Consideration of CDOT road inventory submittal.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item I, consideration of board commissioners chair and vice chair. And I want to thank Mr. Dornkamp for adding this to the agenda. As you know, I've been serving in this capacity for, I believe, 3 years now. And I asked Mr. Dornkamp to put this on. I am at the point where I think it's necessary that we look at additional changes to this or change to this position and allowing my fellow commissioners the opportunity to serve as chair and as vice chair. And that's why I asked them to do this. Traditionally, this is done every election cycle. However, since we're on an election cycle, we can still make this occur at this time and open it up to dialogue and conversation to see who would be willing to take the chair position at this time. I would like to step away for a time from the chairman position moving forward and allow one of my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Hass or Commissioner Lopez, as the chairman at this point. Commissioner Hass, do you have any conversation?
I would like to say that you've done a fantastic job in this position. But understand why you're looking to step back, and I would nominate Felix Lopez for that position.
Do you have any objection to this nomination?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you have served this board absolutely in the way that is required. And I believe that the learning process for me certainly has been tremendous. I have no objection, and I'd be humble to accept the nomination from Commissioner Haas. And one of the things that I hope to continue to do in this particular chair is the knowledge, the research, and the dialogue that is required to make decisions on behalf on the best interest of the constituents of the entire county, and also the constituents that are working with our county in tandem from other counties. The responsibilities are many, and one of the challenges is to follow, to continue to uphold and maintain the job that has been done.
Well, hearing a nomination and acceptance, I will happily second that nomination for Commissioner Felix Lopez to move forward as our chairman of the board.
Thank you so much, and I accept the nomination, and I stand to be, again, in times of research, to be educated. I think together we make a very good team with your in this county, so I accept the nomination, and looking forward to working with all of you.
All right, this is roll call, please.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
I abstain from the vote, but I accept the nomination.
Chairman, you need to continue the meeting.
Let's not change seats right now. Yes. I think, at this point in time, why don't you finish the meeting today? Let's go through the process. And as far as the, do we have another nomination for the vice chair?
Well, we need to have a discussion on that.
Okay.
So we'll leave that open, and I'll move forward with that as well. I think Commissioner Haas will be in a good position to do so as well. We're in a position to move forward, and if he would be interested, or if not, that is completely up to Commissioner Haas at this point.
Well, I would make the nomination that we set in that position, because for these reasons, I believe that I am still learning, and have you two individuals as my instructors at this point. I'm getting better at getting my message across, and I attribute a lot of that to following what you guys are doing. So,
thank you for that. I appreciate that. And, if there's no objection from Commissioner Lopez, I would accept that nomination.
I would second the motion.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Okay, we'll just finish this meeting after the meeting. Lucky to coffee.
Can I ask a question? Because it was one item on the agenda, and you took two votes, like.
It's and by you, so it's up to the position. So we didn't have to do it. For the minutes, you can talk to Phil. Thank you, Paul. Good point. Item J, consideration of Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining and Safety, Branson Pit Annual Report Map and Fee, Mr. Duncan.
Commissioners, as happens frequently throughout the year, this is a map fee report for our Branson Pit that be submitted to the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining and Safety, Minerals Reclamation Permit Annual Report. For the Branson Pit, it's a 112 permitted pit, which the fee then is $791 for 39.9 acres. But that's the board to approve this.
This seems like annual housekeeping, correct?
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Duncan?
Is this the pit that John and I went out and actually looked at?
Yes, yes, Commissioner. Yes.
And we were looking at the availability of what was left there.
Your, in my opinion, I believe, is different than what the contractor, when they were out there's opinion is, and what could have been mined, yes.
Okay. wish to elaborate?
Oh, we were looking at it and concerned that we may be getting low on material there and looking for alternative sites, but according to the engineer, he thinks that there's plenty there. Correct?
Well, I'm not, it's a contractor was reluctant to mine the rest of it. Not sure when we get it back in. And I was on our way down to Kim for a fire meeting.
So these are annual renewals, correct?
Yes, this is an annual.
So
You'll have 8 or 9 more of them, however many more bits we can get.
we need to look at not renewing this one if you see there's not a need for.
As long as the pit has not been reclaimed and released by the Division of Minerals, Division of Mining and Safety, we have to continue to pay the fee and do the map and everything else. So it's
Okay, are there any other questions? Not entertain a motion, please.
Move for approval of Colorado Division of Reclamation Mining and Safety Grants and Pit Annual Report, map and fee.
second. Commissioner Felix Lopez? Yes. Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item K, consideration of Mine Lake addition of operation premises. Counselor? We don't have any issues on this, do we?
Commissioners know it appears to be a complete application. I don't believe they're going beyond the boundaries as far as mileage, location to other stores or schools that they did in their initial application, so I don't have any concerns with the application as it stands.
Mr. Mestis, do we have any concerns from the clerk's office on this?
No concerns yet. They're just adding 3 areas for the most part to their existing license.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the board?
Those particular 3 areas are outlined and described within the parameters of the resort.
Correct, there's a map.
They are.
Yes.
No other questions?
Another question, entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the Monument Lake addition for optional premises.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item L, consideration of letter of support for the Barneye Forest Restoration and Wildlife Risk Mitigation Unit. Commissioner Murphy.
Commissioners, the manager of the Barneye Ranch approached us about having the board sign a letter of support for their 2022 Forest Restoration and Wildlife Risk Mitigation Grant. So I asked the board to approve this unless there's changes you'd like to make. And I sent it to the Barneye Ranch manager, and he was okay with the letter.
They have been doing this for 2 or 3 years, I think, which is a great mitigation factor on that part of the county. So I think it's a great letter of support.
I have no questions or concerns. I agree. Entertain a motion, please.
Move for the approval of letter of support for the Barneye Forest Restoration and Wildfire Risk Management Grant.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Item M, consideration of letter of support for the Barneye Community Assistance Fund adjacent to National Forest and Grasslands Ranch.
Commissioner, similar to the prior request from Barry and I, they've also requested the board send a letter of support for this 2022 Community Assistance Funds adjacent to forest, National Forest and Grasslands grant.
Very similar. I have no questions. If we have no other questions or concerns, entertain a motion.
I move to approve the letter of support for the Barneye Community Assistance Fund adjacent to National Forest and Grasslands grant.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes. Consideration of resolution 22-013, Trinidad Animas District. Please read the resolution.
Resolution Board of County Commissioners, Los Angeles County, Colorado, renewing the Trinidad Ambulance District Prim, TAD and Prim ambulance service license, thereby allowing TAD to provide ambulance service and support within Los Angeles County during the calendar year of 2022. Resolution 22-013. Whereas Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the Health Facilities and Emergency Medical Services Division, and the State Board of Health has enacted rules pertaining to the administration of emergency services operations within each respective county within Colorado. And whereas July 2006, Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners adopted rules and regulations establishing minimum standards for the provision of ambulance services within Los Angeles County in conformance with said state agency rules and regulations. And whereas the ambulance service license was initially issued to the Trinidad Ambulance District in December 2006 and has been renewed annually through 2021, authorizing it to operate an ambulance service in Los Angeles County in compliance with Los Angeles County Ambulance Service Regulations and Licensing Procedures Manual. And whereas the Trinidad Ambulance District has filed an application requesting renewal of its 2021 licensing and authorization to provide ambulance service within Los Angeles County for calendar year 2022. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, that one, the Board hereby authorizes the renewal of the ambulance service license issued to the Trinidad Ambulance District for the provision, for the provision of ambulance services within Los Angeles County for calendar year 2022 in conformance with the rules and regulations adopted by Los Angeles County, Colorado. On this motion made and second affirmative vote, this resolution was adopted this first day of February 2022. Board of County Commission, Los Angeles County, Colorado, followed by your signature lines.
May I entertain a motion, please?
Move to approve resolution 22-013, Trinidad Ambulance District.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes, and item O, I don't know if we need to move forward with this since we've already had the presentation today. Go to item P, consideration of Southern Colorado Economic Development District membership. Mr. Director.
Commissioners, before you is request for renewal, not renewal, request for Los Angeles County to join the Southern Colorado Economic Development District. I believe Commissioner Luis Lopez and I want to say alternate Jody Amato have been attending some of the meetings in a non-voting capacity.
Correct. And I understood at the time, the membership fee was $500, and it appears that they are currently requesting $3,500, $35.61.
That's correct.
Do we have anybody on the clarification for this day? Since we don't have anybody from SCED on the call, I would prefer that we contact Mr. Grumelman and see what the reason for the status or the dollar amount from $500 to $3,500 has been changed from what we were told a year ago. I can't see myself moving forward with this amount of money to become a member of this organization without having some clarification for myself, and I think the board deserves that. I think we budget for that, Mr. Coberly.
And to take from your, I bet you your dues,
Right.
or like your meetings and traveling, that's probably the only place we could take it from.
But for that big of a discrepancy, I mean, we watch every penny very closely here, including what we just did on the vehicle transaction today for $1,900. This is $3,000 difference, so I would prefer we entertain a motion to table at this time.
This was just 3566, and I asked Mr. Goodwin about that via conversation. his explanation was it's based upon, as he wrote in his email here, the population of Los Angeles County. But it's not.
And as a sitting board member, I haven't received any information from SCED raising their rates based on population in the past year, and Mr. Model's not on the call now either, but I doubt she has as well, so I'd rather investigate it a little further before we move forward with this.
Sounds good, so, can you go for a motion?
Yeah, we'll go for a motion this time.
Okay, so I would move to table, to lay in the table the Southern Colorado Road District membership until we get some clarification on the cost of the membership. I would second the motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes, item D, consideration of unleaded fuel bid, Mr. Duncan.
Commissioners, the Road Commission Department solicited bids for the delivery of approximately 8,000 gallons of unleaded fuel to the fairgrounds facility with the following results: Acorn Petroleum, $2.55 per $2.55106 per gallon, city price $20,408.48. World Fuel, $2.6325 per gallon, city price $21,060. Lahana Valley Oil, no bid. Wallace Oil, no bid. Rand Oil, no bid. So I ask the board to approve Acorn Petroleum's bid of $2.55106 per gallon, city price $20,408.48.
No, I don't have any questions or concerns. If there are none, we'll entertain the motion, please.
I would move to approve the unleaded fuel bid to Acorn Petroleum Incorporated for the amount of $20,408.48.
Second.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes, my favorite part, financial matters. Considerations of bills and payroll for the second half of January 2022. Mrs. Coley.
We'll stop hesitating. It's important. Payroll as of January 31st, 2022 is $175,672.28. Any questions on payroll? Bills paid on January 19th, 2022 was $68,993.92. The final payment for ARPA search for the assessor was $9,018.14 for the digitized for the assessor. It's in that packet. January 26th, 2022, $68,233.57. ARPA search final payment for the clerk and recorder was $14,120.67. Joe told me today that there was a credit from them, but they did miss 3 books. So they'll probably just do a swap on that for the credit. I think it was a credit like $4,000. So we're just going to talk to see if it's going to be additional or you're send us back additional funds on that. And then that's it.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Coley? Not ready to motion, please.
I move to approve the bills and payroll for the second half of January 2022. Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes, executive session. The board will meet in executive session under CRS 24-3 says 4024A. The purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real personnel or other property interests. The Baca Land Tract J. And under CRS 24-6, 4024B, confirming the county attorney for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. Exit 2, do you hear a motion to 10-minute recess?
Move to go into executive session with the 10-minute recess.
Second motion.
Commissioner Felix Lopez? Yes. Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Are you going to come out and vote on anything?
No.
Okay. But are you going to go to the Human Services meeting?
That will be at 12 o'clock, I think it's posted, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it is. All right.
It's going to be an executive session.
Oh, okay. All right.